Yeah, peace on my. That's why I was saying that if you really are sticking to the Ancient Order Free Asiatics nutrition weight loss program, that program, where you repairing your circulatory system and your endocrine system. So you got to look at the physical composition when you're healing it as a whole, not individual. And then you break it down into the system. So each system, you use a different plant to, using a different plant to heal the systems. So you're actually not actually healing them. They're healing themselves. All you're doing is you're creating the environment for the physical composition to heal itself. So you're doing two things at once. You're not putting any more poison in, and the key words are no grain, starch, soy, dairy, and sugar, because if you're using grain, starch, soy, dairy, and sugar, if you see those names on whatever you're buying to eat, then you know that it has conventionally grown food, it has GMO, it has pesticides or some form of that. And so that is attacking your endocrine system and your gut biome. It's causing havoc at the mitochondria level. Those types of problems bring circulatory system problems, and once you have circulatory system problems, you're going to get other organs. Every organ is going to be affected. Every organ needs a blood supply and micronutrients, minerals, vitamins, that, right? And so when you use conventionally grown food, whether it's animals, birth, and where they feed them, and what type of chemicals they put in them, if it's that, or if it's just them being careless and cross-contaminating you, because they could cross-contaminate you too, and then you'll get the same problems that you would have got if they didn't cross-contaminate you, right? You feel me? So you want to, those are the things you're going to look for, right? Of course you're going to use Leviticus. I told you you're going to use Leviticus 11, and you're going to use see, they must be trying to put these on sale because nobody's buying. I can see this shit settled way too long. But anyway, you're going to, that's what you're going to do. You're going to, you know what, maybe I need some water too. So you're going to regulate with the 16-hour, when you use the 16-hour fast, and you use the 4 hours before bed, your 8 hours rest, and then you have 4 hours when you up, after you up, right? So that gives you your 16. Then if you want, you could add another 2 and make it 18, or you could go with 23. You could do that. So you have that fasting part in conjunction with not bringing any, oh wait, that's the wrong phone. with not bringing any poison in the physical composition, right? You do that. Once you do that, you should be good. I know it's going to take, remember now, nature moves slow. She's not fast. And you're treating the whole physical composition, not a particular organ or gland or particular part in your physical body. That's what you're doing. Barcode accepted. So with that, I'm going to say peace, divine understanding. You know how we do it, and I'm out. Peace, peace, peace. When I see 35 to 50 years before he even called himself a Muslim son, when I see that, I don't just think of masonry, right? Because he said, well, build on the 55th degree on 120, please. Can you build on the 55th degree on 120? That's the born degree in the 1 to 14, if you got it in that order, right? If you didn't get it in that order, we're still going, you know it's not 55 for you, but it is the born degree in the 1 to 14. But anyway, long story short, right? So 35 to 50 years it makes me think of masonry, but not totally. Because in my mind, I'm going, well, Muslim son would be Shriner, right? And so Shriners are not Masons. Masons may be Shriners, but Shriners don't necessarily have to be Masons, if I'm correct. But I know that Shriner is an order all of its own, and Masonry is an order all of its own. And so the Shriners are, I would think, they're imitating Islam, the Orthodox style, based on fezzes, so that would make me think of the Moors. And so 35 to 50 years of your life, if you're going to look at it from that perspective of masonry, after you hit the 32nd degree, or the opening would be a fellow craft master mason. So you'd be entered apprentice, fellow craft master mason, right? And then eventually you first you have the substitute to the infallible name, then you get the infallible name, right? And so you might even understand the science behind the tetragrammaton and all that, right? Okay, so now that's that part. We still on the 9th degree, right? So then we keep moving on, and now we start going into the greatest and only universal flag. So when I go into the flag, right, because it says, and we're the greatest and only flag. All right, so now, when I'm thinking of that, I'm going to automatically go right to Shamgar, and I'm going to go to the universal flag of the 5% cycle. And on the universal flag of the 5% cycle, you see the sun, 7, moon, and stars. And then you take it from there if you're going to build. Now, there's 2 lessons on that I have. I've seen 2 lessons on the universal flag, right? The one Shamgar wrote, and somebody else wrote. I wrote one. Right, so you can do the knowledge of those. Ask the Enlightener. If you could get a copy of that. Right, so then the next big he goes through with his labor. So that's still going back to the 35 to 50 years, and then we permit him to wear the flag, right? And so as time is traveling, because time is motion being made, that's why you look at sun, 7, moon, and stars, because you're looking at time being made, right? When you see, for instance, the physical composition, air particles in a clot of blood attach itself to the uterus wall. That's day 1 that you're on the planet Earth. You just inside of your mother's womb because you're growing. That's the fact. You're growing. And so eventually you're in the womb for 9 months. That means you've been on Earth for 9 months and you come out, usually. And then 3 months later, they'll say, oh, he's 3 months. But really, you're 12 months then. Because you keep following the Gregorian calendar instead of following the original Asiatic calendar. Your people, because the planet Earth is Asia, and Asiatics come from the planet Earth. So the whole planet is Asia. He has you going and thinking that little section that we call Asia is Asia based on the UN, but that only been around. The UN only been around since 1947. It was called something else, some kind of United Nation group. All this took place after the Ottoman Empire. If you're going into your lessons, it'll be 1453. You feel me? All right, so now we're going to move on, and we're going to go into the sword as an emblem of justice was used by original man in Muhammad's time. So now, are you talking Muhammad the Prophet, Abdullah ibn, of 1400 years ago, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him? Are we talking about him? Could be. But we also definitely are talking about Muhammad the Conqueror, 1453. All right, so do your due diligence and do the knowledge to Muhammad the Conqueror. All right, and then, all right, so now we're going to keep traveling, right? We're going to come to, we could go, it makes me go back to taken off by the sword. So, his head will be taken off by the sword, right? So now, if we do the knowledge to his head will be taken off by the sword, that's when if you're in Masonry, they're going to know what I'm talking about when you do the enter the apprentice signal. When I'm talking to my brethren and they don't know. I don't want no one to know I'm talking to them, and I don't want to say anything. They give them the sign of the throat, the sign of the mouth, and then throw it over the shoulder sign, and then the sign of the heart and the sign of the gut. You could give all three if you wanted, and no one would even catch it. All right, so that's that. And then we keep traveling. So he will keep in mind that anytime he reveals secrets that we gave him this chance, he would say, see, so if we're going to keep in mind that any of the secrets that we gave him this chance so he can clean himself up and come among us, his head will be taken off by the sword. So now, look, that's what they doing. They giving you the sign of they not going to give up the secret or their head will be taken off by the sword. Right? And then we travel down to the holy flag of Islam is the greatest and only flag known. And so that would make us go to the next level and go to the holy flag of who is the 5% nation. For us, that's our holy flag. The sun, seven, moon, and stars. And it's the greatest and only flag known in the 5%. And there's a play on words on that because you have all those different flags that Shamgar was presenting to the Father before he accepted whichever one he was going to accept. And then we came up with our flag we got now, right? So you get that mathematical equation, and that takes you to that level. So in the universe, everything, the sun, moon, and stars, that tells you right there, right? And then they are planets. See, now, that's where the key comes in, that the sun, seven, moon, and stars are all planets. The sun planet, the earth planet, and the moon planet. Right? Those are all planets. And so once you understand that they're all planets, it's such a vast and intriguing science to go get the telescope. That's why I said, if you see your 120 in the proper perspective, you run to the store and buy a telescope. So on them dark nights, you can look into the sun, moon, and stars. And then you want to go buy a microscope so you can see the microcosm, the macro and the micro. Feel me? All right, so where we at now? Okay, so we saw what was holy, things that have been diluted, made tampered with in any form, right? I mean, we could have sat here and quoted the whole degree. And in the old days, in front of each other so I could see your face. But anybody knows and understand, they can hear it. Like, if you try to act like you reading it, like, they gonna know, like. So he clean himself up. See, you could see that he was able to clean himself up. See, because the Muslims don't love the devil, God was how long he has said. After he goes through this for 35, 50 years, we try to learn. And do like the original man. So, after he has devoted 35, 50 years of trying to learn, do like the original man. That's why they be saying he be studying this, that, but he don't be trying to learn and do like the original man. He be trying to master the original man. So how do we counteract his mastery over us? You master 120. Simple things in the lessons that everyone can do that immediately sets up the destruction of the devil's civilization, automatically increases the original man's civilization, right? So, knowledge itself. When you start understanding who and what your people are, it's an automatic bang for him. That's the first one. The second one is who's the colored man. And when you understand who the colored man is, that sets up the next bang. Boom. Prior to those two hits, where you are paused, prior to those two hits for the bang, you have to understand that you had got the dietary law first. You just didn't know that you did. Like, when they say, when you teaching knowledge of and you give it to how you got it, like I give 9 reasons why Allah is God, right? And so, that's the first lessons that you quote under this tutelage. But what was the first degree you received was I so self true reality, son of man, God. No, that's the first degree you received to quote. That was a word of mouth degree. The first degree, you knew the first degree, even though I had already gotten it years prior to, would be How to Eat to Live, Book 1 and Book 2. That would always be your opening, is How to Eat to Live. So, with that, I'm out. Divine understanding, born of law. You know how we do it. Set the record straight. Ancient and free Asiatic Son of Man 7. Remember, no grain, starch, soy, dairy, sugar, gold. If you're going to eat animals, use Leviticus 11. You in there. They can't stop you. If and when we make those type of moves as a people, we will crush the devil in one day without falling victim to the devil's civilization. Peace. Peace, Almighty. Listen, Lord. So, what happened was I went ahead and did the test for y'all, because God said, can I do the test? Right. Why? Because now I know more anatomy and physiology and nutrition, the combination of the two. I know more about it now than I knew, say, in 2018 when I first started this new program, right? The main reason we started this program was because the 5% were getting mostly hypertension, diabetes. Of course, cancer was slipping in there on us. Diabetes problems with kidneys, and so different organs was having problems, and we was trying to figure out why would these organs have the kind of problems that they're having if and when we are using How to Eat to Live, Book 1 and Book 2, and Otisville Tape Book 2 for the dietary part. Of course, we have Otisville Tape 1, but 2 is the part where it's giving you the dietary law. And then, we cross-reference a lot of that with Circle 7 or on, and we cross-reference that with Big Quran, Muhammad Abdullah Ibn 1400 years ago. Cross-referencing with that, you could cross-reference with Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Mostly Leviticus 11 is, if you're going to narrow it down, as far as we talking about the dietary laws, right? And then, wait, hold on one sec. So the reason why I gave you that little background is because what took place was, when you look at the ailments in totality, we cross-reference things like the ailments we were getting, so we knew what to cut off. So any live grafted germ from original is devil, so we cut all those off, right? And then we went to Leviticus. We made sure Leviticus was right and exact, right? So you were going more closer to dealing with the farm when you dealt with animals. And then we were still doing restaurant food. Like, we might still eat at restaurants, sit in restaurants, not the little fast food ones like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's. We weren't going to those, but I think even the sit-down restaurants like Olive Garden and those are really still fast food. They just disguise themselves as if they are home cooked. But it's not. The bodega food would probably be better because they actually sitting there cooking that, right? They're not having to cook somewhere else and then bringing it in most of the time. Don't quote me on that, because at any given moment, people might use catering and then season it up themselves, right? So, okay, but this is my point I was making was, we noticed that all of the restaurants and all of the conventionally the conventional grocery stores and the conventional restaurants, all of them pretty much, okay, say 85%. So 85% of them use Cisco as a food source, outsourcing the distribution and the packaging, and where they're buying these fruits and vegetables and other box goods, right? So we noticed that the restaurants, right? Listen to me. Hold on now. I'm going to get to you. We noticed that the restaurants, right? I want to emphasize that the restaurant food was just as bad as the conventional grocery stores food. They all had GMOs in it. They all had trans animals in their food, transplants, because they'll cross-referencing trans a fish with some of the crop so that it could handle cold better, or things like that they were doing, right? And we noticed that those types of foods for the original man in the wilderness North America, February 20, 1934. For the original man in the wilderness North America with lamb's wool. That's man, woman, and child, right? Right, so man, woman, and child. So mostly children and young people, I would say under 35 and under. Most of them, 80% of them, you didn't see any changes in the blood or the organs. You didn't see much of a change. But after they hit about between 35 and 42, inflammation immediately, right? Anything that wasn't right and exact inflamed the body, but mostly at a mitochondria level. And so, because it was happening at that microscopic level, since it was the mitochondria was where the problem was initiating, or the gut biome. And so, from what I saw, they didn't feel anything. The cleaner the diet was, and the longer they had going on that clean diet, then they felt the poisons of the Cisco food. They felt the poison quicker. Physically, they felt it than, say, the people who already had an accumulation of poison in their physical body, so they move different when they have that already. They move, their body moves different, and they in turn they feel the organs different, right? So what happens is, mostly at a certain, I would say half, when you go halfway through your cycle of the 120 to 100, some people got an 80, they get 80, so they around their 40s, they feel it. Because it's usually half is when you feel it, is when it starts taking place, at half. You can change that, but you have to go totally on your diet. You have to change the whole manifestation, right? Because what you're doing is you're changing the mechanisms that digest and absorb food, right? What happens is, now that we know the next hit, so we make the adjustment. See what it is? We have to make an adjustment to the teachings on the dietary law, because it's just not, it's too simple to just say, pardon me, it's too simple to say, hi, it's too simple to say, we're just going to not eat swine. Nah. It's way more complicated in these modern days than when we first got knowledge. So, because once the colonizer figured out that the people, the regular people in the wilderness of North America, all those that make 120 and down, or make 120,000 a year and on down, it's even up to 250,000 and down. Most of them, right, all the way to the people who are homeless, right? All of them are the ones they're trying to change the time span, the timeline, the amount of time on Earth. They want to change your amount of time on Earth. They want you to be on Earth no more than 35 years. 35 to 45 years. That's how he's making it manifest, is that. Because he already figured out he can't stop procreation, because it's part of it. It's hardwired in us, even though he's done a whole lot with Cisco's food and things of that nature to change the hormonal structure in the population, the Earth's population, right? So that's why I said knowledge itself has to be the leaders in the Vanguard to say, all right, he done stepped up the poison game. He stepped the poison game up to another level, right? because now he understands chemistry at another level. He also sees what I'm saying to you. It's just that the regular people don't know they could change their RNA, DNA. They could change the hormonal output and input. They could turn genes on and turn other things off. You could do all of that. That's why the Creator set it up the way He set it up, so that you could do that with the Father Cipher Divine. That's why it's the God degree in the 12 Jewels. Because you could change the whole. You see people do it. They'll increase their protein and increase their input and output on weight, right? Add artificial weight, and they'll supplement protein, and you see them change their physical composition. See, so you can see it done. They just tell you that, oh, you can't repair DNA, you can't repair RNA, you can't change genes. Yes, you can. He did it. Look, the colonizer had a hold of you from in the wilderness of North America, right? He had a hold of you. Because your mathematical equation is a little different than mostly everybody else's. Because you were under the English, mostly. Spaniards, too. You was under Spaniards, too. Because Spain had the wilderness of North America before the English. The English just took it from the Spaniards and the French. And they took it so long ago, you don't know those languages really as a group of people. But your English is superb as a group of people, because that's the colonizer who owes you money. And the colonizer who owns the people who speak French is France. It's those major countries that owe reparations. Their governments and their corporations owe the reparations. They try to throw you off by saying to the people, oh, why should I have to pay? You ain't got to pay because you ain't got shit anyway. You can't pay. It has to be governments and corporations because they last longer than people get about a C note. Corporations can keep going. Right? Trust, all those can keep going. Even when the physical composition ceases to function, they just rely on the genetic code to make another baby and let it go down. You know, the Europeans used to run it as monarchs and stuff like that. I say that because you can relate to that easier being in the wilderness in North America when you see kings and all that, right? So that's the corporation continuing through the genetic line, because you only got about a C note. Everybody only got about a C note on Earth. So the whole total population of the planet Earth changes every C note. So once you understand that, that's why they put things in writing and in monuments and because they already knew that it only took a C note for you to not even know what happened. Like in 100 years, we could figure, you could not know. In 100 years, you wouldn't know what happened. So it's easy to have a cataclysmic event, which extinction level, we've gone through 5 or 6 of them as original people knew. We went through 6 cataclysmic extinction level events as lamb's wool on this planet, right? We're not going to even get into the genetic modifications and this, that, and the third. And most of that stuff could be done with just food alone. You could change your whole genetic code with food, right? So they're doing it. They keep giving you the processed food and changing your whole genetic code. Your body is tripping out, trying to adapt, but it's hard to adapt to stuff that you don't do or supposed to do. It's almost like a turtle can't eat termite food, and termites can't eat turtle food. See? So you are eating synthetic food, and mostly any commercial place that's trying to make money, you shouldn't eat any of their food. See, that changes the social structure, which means now for us to have some kind of bond or social structure with food is a major component in it. we have to do our own preparing, right? We have to go back to the old manifestation of growing your own food is like the ultimate hit. But most people are saying I can't get no farm and nothing like that. But you know, this is modern days now. You can have a whole fucking farm in your living room, right? They have that. You can look that up. How to grow. I mean, hell, they grow equality that way. That you could grow your fruits and vegetables. It'd be even easier than doing the equality because you won't need all that humidifier and all that temperature changes and using up all that electricity. You won't even have to do that. See? So that's what I'm saying. We have to make that change. So since we're supposed to be the vanguards in the lead movement inside of the hood, because if you look at the original people, when they say something is cool or something is hip or something is what we gonna wear, then the world bears witness after we say, yeah, this is what's going down. For some reason, we the trendsetters and we make the dances, we make the right music, any level playing field, and we dominate the manifestation. So once we realize that we are the majority and not the minority, 4,400,000,000 versus 103 million, that means we the majority, right? And I'm just talking about lamb's wool. Everybody who got lamb's wool, it's about 4,400,000,000 lamb wool on earth. Even if you hiding it, you're in that category. So once we unify, you won't feel like you won't feel as if you're inferior and that your hair is inferior and things of that nature. You won't feel like your skin tone is inferior because you'll be on top, right? We'll be winning the whole thing, winning, and then go get a skin graft and change our hair texture. We'll do all of that after we already won. Because people who make under $250,000 a year, they really can't afford that anyway. You have to be in entertainment. So that means that the entertainment world puts more pressure on the original people to give up their culture, creed, way of life, things that make them who they are. Right? It's almost the same way when the Asian people want to make their eyes round. And we want to make our hair straight. And that kind of stuff be happening. Right? And then we want to put perm and we want to put weave and we want to do all that to assimilate into the colonizers' artificial reality. That's what we doing. And so he has to keep that up. He has to keep that facade up because he doesn't want to give up his position as the ruler of the planet right now. Right? They be saying, oh, he didn't really, dude, they've been doing this shit since Rome. You heard what the noble prophet said, right? This is the Roman Empire, that the police are the Roman soldiers. This is the leftover of the Roman Empire, the last of it. That whole fraction of them saying that Hebrew and Jew are the same, synonymous, and that it looks like the colonizers' children. That all the high-powered things, right? The Arabs did it, the Jews did it, and the Christians did it. All three of them came for lamb's wool in so many different ways that we are not going to even be able to tell you in the time span that we have been allotted for this particular video, right? So you do your research, you can see it. But like I said, if you go into 35 to 50 years, 35 to 50 years of study, right? You do 35 to 50 years of study. So by the time you hit 35, now your study is what is called practical application. You're seeing if your theories are coming to fruition or which ones work, which don't. This works, this doesn't work. I need to modify this. That's what you really do. Because after the first 35 years, you already know what it is. You have it down packed by now. What you have to do is do it. We had an early jump as the 5% because we got it so young that we didn't have to wait. We was getting out 35 to 50 years from the gate, right? And then it was fast track because we was quoting it. We got a fast track. Young, it went in fast. You didn't have nothing else to do anyway at that young age. You wasn't worrying about food, clothing, and shelter as much as, say, a grown person who has a whole family. So you got it, you had that. That put you in the right position to be able to take care of anything that was being made manifest, because by the time you was an adult that you needed to do what you needed to do, you already had the trade, the profession, 120, see? And so the colonizer knew that that was going to free y'all up, because he had been seeing that since 1913, the year before the devil ended the devil civilization. He saw what was happening, and that even during his reign, he was not totally winning. Like, he's looking at the scripture saying, they're on my side, Yaku, but I still can't subdue the planet the way I want to. Even right now, he can't subdue the planet. He's trying to. He makes moves like he can, but he really can't. He can't subdue the planet the way he would want to. It's not working. And so now we come to the end of his civilization. It's over now. So the last piece of colonization he has is trying to say that he's a Hebrew. No, but he doesn't come right out and say it. For some reason, he can't really ride Hebrew. Because to ride Hebrew, you would wake up everybody that it's lamb's wool, feet like brass that have been burnt in the oven, eyes of fire, hair, lamb's wool, right? And so it keeps telling you that you are all of lamb's wool. From their roots start at 30th parallel. So it starts at the Tropic of Capricorn to the Tropic of Cancer in the equator. That's you. That's your people. That's who you are. You're the lamb's wool. So the uniqueness, everybody got their own uniqueness. So in the Asian part, they had the uniqueness with the eyes. The other ones have the uniqueness with the softness of their manifestation. The Hindu side, right? They had their uniqueness, right? And the ones with the eyes, they had their uniqueness. That Asian group, right? They have both sides right there. And when you go to the African diaspora, from Tropic of Capricorn to the Tropic of Cancer, you see 16 shades of black, 8 shades of brown, 8 shades of yellow, and all its uniqueness, right? And then the colonizer, his uniqueness is he has blonde hair, blue eyes, green eyes, red hair, pink nipples. That's his uniqueness. So everybody got their own manifestation. What they don't see, the colonizer doesn't see, is that eventually you're going to have to be recognized by the Federation and the Republic and the free planet, all these planets that galaxies and solar systems, and you're going to have to come to a level where you're recognized. But they look at you as children because y'all are still thinking that you're not all earthlings, that, I don't know, that you're a superior earthling than the other earthling. Whatever the case may be. But in all actuality, your most powerful earthling is lamb's wool because it's the first earthling, right? It's like the old ancient vampires. The first one be way stronger than the other one, but they be way more, like when you look at Underworld and you see those two major vampires, one bat, one wolf. But his father was the foundation to it all, but he was way calmer than them. He wouldn't even fight against it. He was more like Martin Luther King, if you ask me. He moved that way, right? Not trying to fight, nothing. I'm not opposing you. I'm not going with you, but I ain't opposing you. Do what you want to do. I'm going to do this. So basically, that's what the Lamb's Wool has been doing, and pretty much all the other nations on earth. They really didn't do any colonizing. Make you speak their language, take over, You know, you'll see it like within their own little ciphers, but they didn't leave out of there. It's like you'll see the East Indian people went to the Himalayan people and did some conquering shit, but that came after the Aryan people set them up with the caste system and okay? So you could look at it and see it from that perspective, the same way you could look at the lamb's wool and say, well, lamb's wool circumnavigated the planet 50,000 years before most cultures and creeds on the planet had even knew that they could leave their own borders. Whatever natural borders that was mountains, rivers, and things of that nature to keep people bound in, river, ocean, So it's proof. You could go and look in anthropology and it'll show you that the planet, however you see it, it's still all the people on the planet started in the navel. And when they started, it wasn't looking like it is now. The planet didn't look the way it looks now as far as geography. It doesn't look the same now as it did then. Right? Things were closer. The oceans were larger on one side but small on the other side. Things like that. Remember, Kunta Kinte said the Atlantic Ocean was like a giant river to them, to their ancient ancestors 50,000 years ago. Right. So you could take it from there, and you heard about the Anunnaki and all that, science on that, and you heard that the lessons say when we first founded the planet. So you know we older than the sun, moon, and stars. So I don't care who they direct ancient things at, it's still going to end up with lamb's wool. That's the part they're going to have to, I think that's the part that the universe is trying to get them to realize that. And so it's trying to calm them down, but if they keep going at the rate they're going, they're going to make themselves extinct. They're already having a problem with childbirth. Once you have a problem with procreation, nature is trying to make you extinct because you're putting a big giant footprint on the planet and she doesn't like it. Mother Gaia doesn't like it, and you think she's inanimate and she's animate. Right? That's what's happening. She's coming for you too. And that's why you have a problem with procreation. Everybody else doesn't. Right? So, I'm just saying, you have time to straighten up and not becoming extinct. Part of humanity. Earthlings. Because there's been plenty earthlings that walk upright that are extinct. This is not nothing new. Nature does it. If you don't act right, she get rid of you with the quickness. And then you got other outside influences, meteors, this, that, But yeah, real talk. I'm out. Divine understanding, born a lawyer. Now we do it, set the record straight. Peace. Peace. So the point I'm making is, when we talking about that 35, 50 years, right? But the point I'm making when you talking about we redid it, we checked it out, and we saw the modification, it wasn't just enough to say, we're not eating pig and this, that, and the third, right? And so when we went to the next level, we had to watch out for the trans food, the GMO food, the clone food, and the pesticide food, and Monsanto and Cisco in general wasn't right and exact for knowledge itself. And then once we understood that, we knew code words to use so that the regular people who didn't know and understand would be able to get through. So these were the code words that, let me just get back to that part of the story, right? So what happened was we had cleaned ourselves, we had all our numbers right and exact. And then for 6 months, we just ate the exact same food, but we ate it out of restaurants. Not even the kind of restaurants like fast food ones. We didn't even go to those. We went to ones that you sat down and ate. And I want to say 3 months the numbers changed, but by 6 months the numbers had changed so drastic that the colonizers' doctors wanted to make you have colonizer medicine, wanted to put you on pharmaceuticals. I wanted to say that part. So now, that's why I said, so the modification is, say you ate animals and you use Leviticus 11 so you know which animals to eat. And then inside of that manifestation, since it's not automatically organic, you're going to go organic. So if it's not close to paleo or before pesticides was made manifest by the European colonizer, then you would be eating that way, right? Grass-fed, the natural food of the animal. Like termites eat wood, like that. So you would know to eat right and exact, 11. And then you would take it to the next level. If you was going there, you would use Genesis. You could go with Genesis and just go plant-based, right? But if you're not and you're an animal eater, then you need to do Leviticus 11, all right? So you know you got to go organic and when you're going with animals. And then if you was going plant-based, you want to make sure you're not using the codes 4 numbers, but you're using the codes with 5 numbers, so you're going organic. No pesticides and things of that nature. Now, you'll hear the naysayers. They'll say it's no difference between the two. But we tested it. We did it. We did the test on our own self. And we saw the difference in our numbers. Almost within 30-day period, you'll see the change in the numbers, whether you're doing it or you're not doing it. Right? All right. And so that should cover most of it. So now the code words was no grain, no starch, no soy, no dairy, no sugar. Of course, once you reboot the system, we bring things like mango and all those different tropical fruits back inside the dietary. And we'll bring back navy beans and black beans and quinoa and wild rice and this, that, and right? We know which is right and exact. We got that list for you too. But until you reboot your system, you want to go with all green, whether they're ocean green or land green, but leaves. You want to do with the leaves. But you do not want to deal with the leafy vegetables that are for the family's farm animals, like mustard green, collard green, those kind of greens, kale, all those rough weeds that help put nitrogen back in the ground and help the animals on the farm, right? You want things like romaine, lettuce, arugula, spinach. That's what you want, the softer leaves that don't cut up your arteries and make you have high cholesterol. That, all right? So that should be the conclusion to that 35 to 50 years, because like I said, 35 to 50 years makes me think of Masonry and the Masonic Lodge. And we went into that already, right? So, peace.